time to learn a little bit about what the Campus Climate Survey Committee for the undergraduate experience, what we've been doing. And we're going to have an opportunity to share some of our findings, our process, our recommendations or preliminary recommendations, and most importantly, we'll have an opportunity to get feedback from you so that we can refine our recommendations. My name is Martino Harmon. I am Senior Vice President for Student Affairs here at Iowa State University. And I guess I would take from the recent State of the Union and say the climate at Iowa State University right now is cold and frosty. Okay, that didn't really work too well, but I think you know what I mean. So anyway, I also want to thank student government for co-sponsoring this forum with us. We really wanted to make sure that student government was plugged in and engaged, and I know some of their members are likely watching us at the live stream. So thank you to student government for partnering with us. So I want to talk a little bit about our committee and what we're doing, our purpose, and I'll let you know a little bit about the work that we've been involved in for the last probably 7 months or so. So our committee was formed to review and analyze the data from the Campus Climate Survey, particularly the undergraduate student responses to that survey, and analysis incorporate some additional information from other sources so that we could come up with some themes and preliminary recommendations to move forward. So our job is really to analyze and to figure out where we should go from here as an institution and present those recommendations to President Winterstein and the Campus Climate Committees. The Campus Climate Survey Committees consist of 4 different committees. We are one. For those of you who don't know some of the other committees, we have a committee that works with staff data, so that would be professional and scientific, as well as merit staff. We have a committee that works with faculty issues, and then we have a committee that works with graduate and postdoc students. And so tonight we have a special guest from the Graduate and Postdoc Committee that's here, because a lot of our work intersects. Really, if you think about some of the issues and challenges that we need to overcome, it's not always just undergraduate students or just graduate students or just faculty or staff. There's a lot of intersectionality. And so we have a representative from the Graduate and Postdoc Committee who is here, and her name is Noreen Yazin Chaudhry. Sorry about that, Noreen. And Noreen's just going to come up real briefly and just give an update on what their committee is doing, because it is connected to the work of students on campus. And if you could give Noreen a round of applause, because today is her birthday.
Thank you so much for that. For the graduate students, what we primarily did was, with the postdoc data, we didn't have enough turnout responses within the Campus Climate Survey. So the first thing we did was get connected with the Postdoc Association and try and get more students involved within a focus group to try and specifically ask them the questions that stood out in the results for other graduate students, and try and gauge the responses, step from there, and try and figure out the solutions. And for the graduate students, we went over the entire results of the Campus Climate again and picked out 4 main themes that stood out. And those 4 main themes were the academic responsibilities and the relationship with the advisor and the mentor, childcare, as well as their disabilities and the student success, and diversity and inclusion. So we made 4 focus groups which involved primarily graduate students as well as representatives from these major 4 departments, and they're going to sit down and talk about those problems and cover the solutions from there, and then we will be able to present our recommendations from our committee by the end of next month. So that is what we have been doing with the graduate students and the postdoc committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Noreen, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm sorry we don't have a cake for you, but we'll just say happy birthday. So as I mentioned, all the committees are working, so that was a little bit of a teaser for what the Graduate and Postdoc Committee, what they'll be doing and what their plans are in the future. But tonight's focus is on the undergraduate students. So next I want to display a list of our committee members. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the members of our committee. We're not done with our work yet, but to thank them for the time that they have spent reviewing data, in discussions, coming up with different opportunities and options for us to present. So we have a really robust list of committee members, and they fall from different areas of campus. We have faculty represented on the committee. We have student affairs and student services leadership from the academic and student affairs division on the committee. We also have students on the committee, which is incredibly important. And we have students here and a variety of other professionals who are part of the campus community. I know that if you're live stream, you can't see this, but I'd like the committee members who are in the room to stand and be recognized so you know that they are here. If we give them a round of applause, please. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about our process that we've gone through for the past several months. So during the summer, the executive leadership of the committee, which you'll meet the other two members tonight, we really worked this summer in identifying committee members, potential committee members, and inviting them to be a part of this process. We also worked on what we felt would be the critical goals of the committee and our process moving forward. So we wanted to make sure that we got off to a good start when fall started. So once we started in the fall, we've had a few meetings during the fall and a couple meetings during the spring semester. And the major focus of those meetings was to really dig in to the survey data, to really have an understanding of how we would use that data to approach our work. But we didn't want to just limit ourselves to data from the survey. We also wanted to look at information from previous campus climate workshops that have been held, discussions with key personnel who work with many of the marginalized and underrepresented populations on campus and work with students in general. We also conducted a few focus groups, and that was to allow us to just dig a little bit deeper. And one of the things we found is that the focus group information that we received was very consistent with the other information that we were looking at. We plan to do a few more focus groups because we got a little bit derailed with some of the weather closures, but we feel confident enough that the focus groups, the data we reviewed, was enough information to move forward with some details that we would share with you tonight. After this forum tonight, we will be taking the feedback from this forum, and the committee will get back together again, and we'll have an opportunity to refine our recommendations if necessary, and then move them forward to President Winterstein and the members of the chairs of the campus climate groups. So again, we really went through a process of analyzing, discussing, gathering information, and then coming up with a game plan. So that's what we've been working on. So some of the information that we looked at, I want to just cover that briefly. We looked at key data from the survey, and I'm not going to go deep into the campus climate survey. It's available online. I believe it's available at the Campus Climate Response Team website and also in some other different places. So, but I just want to share just a few really key data elements that we thought was critical to our analysis. Number one, students indicated that they've experienced exclusionary conduct during along several different student categories. So the top 4 student categories that expressed exclusionary conduct was based on gender and identity, ethnicity, racial identity, and political views. Another bit of data that was really important to our work is for undergraduate students, 43.5% of the respondents to the survey indicated that this exclusionary conduct occurred in classrooms or laboratories. 22% indicated that it happened in campus housing, and it's also noted that the other percentage could have happened at various places on campus. Another theme that was very strong in the survey was concerns about sense of belonging. Students who are enrolled here at Iowa State, but for various reasons have feelings of isolation and don't feel like they always belong here at Iowa State based on the way they are treated and the way they feel that they've been treated. Undergraduates indicated that campus climate could be more positive if we had more opportunities for cross-cultural dialogue, and if we had, well, among students, and if we also had more cross-cultural dialogue among students, faculty, and staff. And In a sense, that's what we're doing tonight. For respondents with disabilities, challenges were described in multiple categories, whether it be facilities, technology, being able to respond and participate in surveys, instructional or campus materials, mobility, receiving accommodations, and access to various services such as mental health. On the positive side, undergraduates indicated that the campus climate has been positively influenced by career development opportunities, effective academic advising, effective peer mentoring, faculty mentorship, and programs that support student well-being. So those were some of the key data sets. As I mentioned, focus groups were conducted, and that allowed us to just drill a little bit deeper to get some ideas about what students would like to see. And then it was really important, too, that we talk to departments that work with students. Really important that we talk with leaders of those departments in various different formats. So whether it's Multicultural Student Affairs, the LGBTQIA, the Center, Multicultural Liaison Officers, International Students and Scholars Office, as well as the Veterans Office. So it was really important for us to get holistic information from a variety of sources. So all of that information really helped influence the development of certain key themes. So theme 1 talks about increasing and improving training and awareness. We know that training takes place sporadically in different pockets, maybe different departments. We have orientation courses on campus that really don't have a consistent curriculum or a consistent theme. So really there isn't a consistency in the training that's being offered. So 2 of the key initiatives before I transition to Dr. Van der Zaten talks about training, staff training. And what we mean by staff is anyone other than students. This is actually a recommendation that is in partnership with the Campus Climate Campus Climate Survey Committee for staff. So this is one of the recommendations that you will hear when they roll out their recommendations, is robust, consistent, standardized, customizable, if as much as possible, professional development and training. That's a critical component of campus climate, that we get some standardization with that effort. Another initiative that actually was mentioned in the faculty campus climate survey group, and we are strongly in support of, is something called the Sci for Civility campaign. And the campaign is not developed yet, but the campaign really focuses on how do we have a marketing style campaign that really focuses on civility, how we should and must treat each other as members of the campus community. We have a faculty member, Dr. Jose Rosa, in the Ivy College of Business, who is working with the faculty committee as well as the other committees to develop this campaign. So we think that's going to be an important part of enhancing campus climate, to have a campaign. We have the Iowa State Principles of Community, and that will be a part of the campaign, but this is more of a marketing approach that's consistent across the university to stress civility. So now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Anne-Marie Van der Zaten, and she's going to talk about training from a couple of other perspectives.
Thank you, Dr. Harmon. The 2 areas that I would like to talk about really focus on the students and student opportunities that we've been working on. The first one is the New Student Onboarding Project. This is a project that we've been working on jointly across the university with advisors, student affairs, and academic affairs professionals. What we did was we looked at how students are onboarded at Iowa State, and what we found is, although we have pockets where it's going very well, we have other places where we really aren't providing the support and the onboarding that we need to for our students. So we've looked at the entire process, we've identified some opportunities, and really what we focused on, Dr. Harmon mentioned at the top about a robust and consistent type of training. So one of the things that the New Student Onboarding Task Force is doing is developing a new online curriculum that will be part of the orientation program that students participate in. And included in that will be a broad discussion about the principles of community as well as more detailed conversations about what that means, what it means to be a psych. So really building that out in a lot of detail. The other area that students may or may not be familiar with is a long-standing program related to the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching. CELT has included a variety of diversity and inclusion types of workshops in their programming for a number of years. And about 2.5 years ago, developed an extensive workshop for faculty focused on the inclusive classroom. I just want to share a few recent stats. This is from April 2016 through December of 2017. During that time, over 550 people on campus participated in the workshop. Included in that were specialized workshops for colleges, as well as broad programs for the entire university. One of the resources that we created as part of the Diversity and Inclusion Workshop was creating an inclusive classroom website, and included on that were resources focused on language in a syllabus, creating a learner-centered environment, and things that faculty members can do to improve the inclusion and the environment in their classroom. So far, there's been 31,000 visits to that website, and interest. Over 50% of the visits resulted in a download of some sort. Most of those were related to the syllabus, including the different syllabus statements that we're including and encouraging people to include in their syllabus. The other initiative, which is just starting to get going, which as students you may begin to see some of the developments from, is a partnership between the Provost's Office, the Faculty Senate, and CELT to do a redesign of courses that fulfill the diversity requirement on campus. The Faculty Senate is continuing to review those and determine what courses we want to continue and what courses should be updated and changed and maybe modernized to address some of the more contemporary issues related to diversity. So those are just a couple of examples, I think, that tie in with the recommendations that had come from the Campus Climate Survey. Folks mostly related onto the students and the classroom experience. So now I'll turn it over to Dr. Hurt, and he'll talk about one of the next areas that was another theme.
So the other major themes that arose both in the survey data, but also in our engagement with the community, has been around this idea of enhancing sense of belonging. So Dr. Harmon talked a little earlier about the importance of students feeling a sense of connection, a sense of belonging, a sense of ability to live at a level of authenticity while here at Iowa State University. And so a couple of recommendations have risen as we kind of talk more about what does that mean and what are the elements of the experience that really can help students experience a sense of belonging. So one of the major areas that arose in our discussion was this broader idea of accessibility. And this came up among a number of different students and really across intersections of identity. And so a couple of recommendations that have come forth. One is around enhancing our resources and really available information about navigating campus. And so thinking about accessibility tools and issues on campus, thinking about restrooms, so gender-neutral restrooms and the availability of gender-neutral restrooms as well as accessible restrooms across campus. One of the themes of feedback is really students wanting better tools and better communication. And so we know that, for example, in the MyState app, that in the map section there is tools to be able to layer information and locations for accessibility, accessible restrooms. We want to continue to enhance that, continue to review that, to look at gender-neutral restrooms, to look at accessible doors and other accessibility tools around campus. And so really making sure that we're intentional about providing that information, both through the MyState app, also through other maps and other information that's available through the university website. And so having a regular review and enhancement of those tools are really important. Go back real quick. The second area is around this idea of visual identity. And so being able to see oneself. in the very landscape of campus. So one of the recommendations that we're offering around supporting and enhancing a sense of belonging and expanding visual representation and diversity on campus is doing a review and enhancing the quantity and quality of images on campus, which reflect the vast diversity of our campus. And so this idea of really being able to see yourself in this space and see representation of one's identity in the space really does go a long way in helping to enhance that sense of belonging and that sense of connection on campus. And so, thinking about everything from increased funding for cultural art, for murals across campus, for photos of historic figures, publications, websites which highlight various cultures and in different languages, and making language availability an important aspect of that, particularly around our electronic communication tools and our electronic resources across campus. And so these are two major recommendations around really enhancing this idea of sense of belonging and really connection and being able to see oneself on campus. Another thing that came up as an opportunity for us institutionally as we've had these opportunities to speak with members of our community is really doing a better job about talking about what's already happening. Over the last 5 or 6 years, there have been some significant efforts across campus around diversity and inclusion. And so we wanted to highlight just a couple of things at tonight's forum. So one, the creation of the Diversity and Inclusion Office, so led by Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, Dr. Reg Stewart, establishing a senior level office and a senior level executive leader who is providing consultation to the president, to her cabinet around topics of social justice, diversity, inclusion, and equity. So that was a major enhancement of our community and really an office to help provide campus-wide strategy to make sure that there's connections when we're thinking about diversity and inclusion across all of the various divisions and units across campus. Second initiative is ISU Police creating inclusion and engagement officers. Really under the leadership of our police chief, Dr. Michael Newton, thinking about how do we enhance this idea of community policing and really making sure that ISU police officers have meaningful connections with our campus community, particularly our students, and that the relationship sets a tone for being able to see ISU PD as a real resource and a real support to enhancing the campus experience. And so the inclusion and engagement officers have really played an important role in that. The Equal Opportunity Office staff expansion. So over the last few years, that office has certainly been able to see investments in expanding the staff in order to be able to expand their reach and expand their services beyond their compliance requirements, beyond their work of investigating matters that are reported to that office, but really now being able to begin to expand with education, expand with outreach across the campus as well. And online training being a part of their efforts. The NCORE ICECORE office development. So the NCORE ICECORE project has been a part of Iowa State University, a nationally recognized initiative for a couple of decades now. And so under Dr. Harmon's leadership, the NCORE ICECORE office has been created as a standalone office to continue to grow and enhance Iowa State's ICECORE conference, the NCORE Scholars experience, but also think about what are ways that we can continue this work and engage our campus in new and real exciting and creative ways around diversity and inclusion. And when we talk about our community, we're thinking about the Iowa State community, but also the broader Ames community, because we recognize that students don't just live on campus, but students live and are part of the Ames community. So how do we engage our neighbors in the Ames community around not just thinking about diversity and inclusion on campus, but really thinking about our city through the lens of diversity and inclusion. The Campus Climate Response Team was created a couple of years ago as a venue for reports of bias, reports of incidences, to be able to come to a multifunctional team that's represented by various different units across campus, with academic affairs, student affairs, public safety, our communications venues on campus. So a number of different partners across campus working collaboratively to be able to have a venue to receive reports and appropriately respond and support students and members of the community who've been impacted by incidences of bias. And then lastly, I want to share about the completion grants and programs aimed at closing the achievement gap. At the end of the day, we want every student to be able to complete their education and graduate from Iowa State University. And we recognize that in so many cases, the ability to complete their degree is not connected to an inability to handle the academic rigor, but it really comes often down to finances and not having the ability to be able to manage and meet the financial needs, because life often happens. And so the completion grants have allowed opportunities for the university to invest in supporting students to be able to complete those degrees when they're so close to completion. You may recall just last year, athletics department made an investment of about $1 million into the completion grant project. And so these are some of the initiatives that, as we talk to the community, we wanted to make sure that not only are we hearing new ideas, but we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to share the good work that has been happening and opportunities to continue to enhance those opportunities. And so one of the takeaways for us is that institutionally, we want to make sure we're doing an even better job of ensuring that our students in particular are aware of the various different resources that are available. And so Dr. Harmon is going to come back now and share next steps and open up some discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Hurd. So what you've heard is our process, what we've been doing, how we've developed information, how we've used the information, how we've looked at themes, how we've developed preliminary action steps that will be forwarded. And as Dr. Hurd said, it was really important for us to just take a snapshot at what has been done. Because one of the things we found out in looking at the survey and also engaging with others on campus is sometimes we don't do a great job of telling our story. You know, we are Iowans, we're modest. We don't always talk about things that are happening. So it's not to say that we don't have a lot of work to do, but we want to make sure that students, particularly undergraduate students, are aware of what has been happening in the past 6 years. So from this point forward, we're going to open this up. If you have any questions or feedback for us, we'll be taking notes. Jenny Pollard, who I want to thank for really helping to put all the details together, she'll be running around with a lapel mic, but you don't have to put it on your lapel. She'll just hold it for you. And we can get your feedback. And again, we'll take that feedback. The committee will reconnect, and then we will get recommendations to President Winterstein. So I'm opening it up for questions, feedback. It always takes the first person to get it started, right? Okay. Awkward moment. Okay, well, yes.
I'll start with a question. Can you tell us a little bit about the other groups and maybe a couple of the themes that you've seen tie together, so that basically the whole campus, whether it's faculty, whether it's staff or students, are kind of all saying the same thing?
Right, and if I had my binder, I could tell you even more details, but I'm going to go off memory. That's okay, because it would take me a minute to find it. So I think the question that Jenny Pollard asked is talk about other groups and sort of the consistent themes. So some of that came out in our recommendations. You know, one of the goals of the Campus Climate Group, all the groups when we sat down to meet, is let's not duplicate efforts. Let's figure out where we can collaborate. So we know that training is a huge, huge goal that we need to accomplish collectively as a group. Thank you. Now, if I can only remember the page. Collectively as a group, training is a big, big, big theme. We also know, I'm trying to think of the other ones. Gosh, I'm going off of memory, which is not good. I'll share one that we haven't shared during the presentation, and it's probably not our biggest goal, but it's a major goal for all the campus climate groups, and that is childcare. There is a horrific lack of childcare in Story County. It's a big issue. It's been a big issue for a long, long time. I know that it's big on the radar screen for the graduate and postdoc group. It came up as one of the items on the faculty group. I imagine that it's going to come up on the staff group. And again, it's an issue even for undergraduate students. So we didn't present it tonight because we know that's coming forward. I know the other one that I was trying to think of is the messages and the sense of belonging around civility, around images, around how we can reduce the feelings of isolation. So those are big themes that sort of ran throughout all of the groups, but some of the groups are in different stages. So I don't know where some of the groups are. They're still working. So that's why I can't really comment on all of their initiatives. But the faculty group already has a set of recommendations out there, and a couple of those we collaborated with. And I know the staff group is in process, and Noreen told you about the graduate postdoc group. Thank you, Jenny. Any more questions? Any of our committee members want to add anything? Just before we close it out, I want to give a last chance. Yes, I knew Dr. McNeil would add something.
So,
Could you say your name just so, because they can't?
sure, I'm Beth McNeil, Dean of the Library. Once the recommendations from our committee are submitted and the meeting happens in March or President Winterstein is ready, details will be on the Campus Climate website.
Very excellent point. Actually, I'm going to ask Jenny, can you talk about the Campus Climate website and how we're using that as a reporting mechanism for all the groups, because you're a big part of that?
Sure, hopefully I don't make the mics too hot, but we do have a campusclimate.istate.edu website that is kind of the home for everything around the survey, around the campus climate
Various
response
campus
team, really everything that's coming out of folks talking and working and implementing things. So you can go onto that site and really see each of the working groups, including this one that's presenting tonight, as well as others, and actually what they're doing, what they have done, where they're at now, where they're planning to go. So that'll just help give you an idea of kind of my question of, like what are you seeing across the teams as themes? And I know that you'll be hearing a lot more this spring as those working groups are kind of coming to the part where they're done at the researching and learning and kind of going to talking. But a lot of that's on the website if you're curious about timelines or information.
Thank you. Yes,
Touch on everything?
that's it.
Okay.
So two representatives, one from the President's Office and one from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. They are coordinating to make sure that they're capturing updates from all the groups. As a matter of fact, I just got a request last night for an update and sent that in. So the Campus Climate website is the best place to go for updates on what's happening. And of course, the ISU Daily, they'll always keep you up to date with things that are happening. So it'll be out there as groups have rollouts and forums, and the information will definitely be out there. We want to make sure that people know what's going on. Anything else? All right, well, before we close, I want to thank those of you who came out tonight on a really windy, nasty day. I want to thank those of you who chimed in via live stream and who will watch this later in the recorded version. I want to thank the Iowa State Daily's Model Farm for setting up all the audio visual, and they do all sorts of creative work, so contact them if you need services. And again, I want to thank the committee and also Dr. Vanderzaden and Dr. Hurt for their leadership. And again, this is not the end of our journey. This is really our opportunity to take this information and move it forward, and we will continue to engage with the campus community as we develop and refine these recommendations. So thank you very much for your time, and everyone, please get home safely. Thank you.